Hello to all the debt warriors listening, and welcome back to another episode of Millennial Debt Domination. I'm your host, Katie Fata. The holidays are right around the corner, and even though the holidays are the same time every year, it seems as if they come unexpected every year. Some people like to start early and some people like to start late, but no matter when you're starting to prepare for the holidays, it's important to keep within a budget and set a spending limit for all your holiday expenses. There are so many financial aspects to the holidays aside from gift giving that you need to keep in mind. If you're going to host a holiday event at your house, you'll have to budget for that. Don't forget charitable donations, decorations, and holiday travel. If you haven't already started budgeting for the holidays, don't worry because we have some holiday budgeting tips for you. Today, I'll be joined by Alicia Stetler, Navicore Solutions community outreach provider in Peoria, Illinois. Financial education is an important topic to Alicia, and she has some great insights on budgeting. Alicia and I will be discussing how to determine your holiday spending limit, online versus in-store holiday shopping, and cost-effective holiday traditions for your friends and family. Let's get to holiday budgeting. Here's my interview with Alicia. Hi, Alicia. Thanks for being on the podcast today.
Hi, Kathy. Thank you for having me.
No problem. So the holidays are approaching yet again. So I thought having a holiday budgeting guide would be a great tool for the listeners. So I think to start, what should your first step be when creating a holiday budget?
Okay, so for me, this is a two-part answer. The first thing is with the holiday budget, you want to know what your extra purchases are going to be. So you want to create a list of any, food, gifts, clothing, travel, charitable giving, anything like that, and have an estimated cost. But also, if you aren't already using a regular budget, it would be definitely recommended to start a budget for your regular expenses before you create the holiday budget.
Yeah, definitely. And, we've definitely talked about budgeting in previous podcasts, so I'll definitely link those down below. So if you're not sure how to create a budget, you can listen to some of those and get some information on that. So how can someone determine what their spending limit is?
So there's a general rule of thumb that someone might consider spending 1.5% of their annual income or less on holiday expenses. So that example might be if somebody makes $40,000 annually, they might spend around $600. Okay. That being said, it's a really, that's a really general frame. I would definitely say that everyone's situation is a little bit different, and they should base their spending on how much they actually have available to them compared to how much they feel they need to successfully, complete their holiday, the things that they want to do during the holidays.
Yeah, you don't want to go too overboard and put yourself into debt or anything.
Absolutely. So another couple of factors to consider when setting the limit is what do they have available in surplus income, and potentially if they've started a holiday savings account or other, a change jar, something like that they could use for the holiday spending.
Yeah. So kind of speaking of having a holiday saving account, how early should someone start saving for holiday shopping?
So I would actually recommend that they start it at the beginning of the year, that they set their spending goal at the beginning of the year. They include their holiday spending in their regular budget so they can put aside some, each paycheck or each month. So when the holiday season rolls around, they aren't scrambling at the last minute. They already have met their goal, hopefully by that point.
Yeah. And the holidays are at the same time every year. So it's definitely something you could fit into your, your budget and everything. It's coming.
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
Exactly. So do you think it's ever too early to start shopping for the holidays? I know sometimes people get flack for shopping too early, but is it ever too early?
No, I don't think it's too early at all. In fact, I think what people will find is if they start planning at the beginning of the year, January or February, and they continue to do it every year, it's kind of cyclical. So what you spent last year, so that can help you plan for the next year. And then there's even cost saving tips that people can do, right after the holidays. There may be sales. Go out, take advantage of those to prepare for the next holiday season.
Right. Yeah, there's no point in waiting. If you see something you're going to want for someone, you might as well get it if it's on sale too, especially.
And besides gifts, there's things like decorations, gift
That's
wrap,
good. Yeah.
non-perishable items, that are going to be good 12 months later.
Yeah, exactly. And you're going to need that stuff. So you might as well save what you can.
Exactly.
So I know we kind of talked about how we determined how much what your spending limit should be, but should you have like a limit or a budget for each person you need to shop for, or should you set a general holiday budget?
So my recommendation would actually be both.
Okay.
So have a general limit of what you're going to be that's not going to put you in debt or cut into income you have reserved for your regular expenses. And also within those categories, so have a travel budget, have a gift giving budget, have for example, if you host, a food budget. And then when you're looking at the gift giving part specifically, you can determine if you want to set an individual limit for each person, or you may find that you spend a little more on one person, a little less on the other, but as long as you stay in that general limit, you won't go over your overall holiday limit.
Right. You can kind of alter the budget as you need it almost, right? Like if you see you're spending less on one person, you can kind of take that. If you want to spend it on more on something, you can always alter it too, as long as you stay within the max budget you set for yourself overall.
Exactly. And
Yeah.
I did when we talked about setting up the available limit, and
Mhm.
and I had initially said that they would come up with a list of wants that they want to spend for the holidays. They may find that their limit is less than their wants, and then they'll want to make some trim some things from the holiday list, the desired list, to stay within that limit. And the
Mhm.
gift giving section is actually a really good place to do that. They may find that with their gift giving session or the gift giving limit, the original list of people, it's not really, realistic. And so some of the things they may consider during, when they are gift shopping is like group gifts or family gifts or non-traditional gifts to be able to stay within that limit.
Right. So, how can someone keep track of their holiday spending?
So again, I would go back to, if somebody's already using a regular budget, I would recommend using the same platform. So if you're using a Navicore Solutions budget and tracking booklet, or if
Yeah.
you're using a particular app, an Excel spreadsheet, use that to keep track of the holiday expenses as well. If you're not, now's a good time to start. Again, you can use a pad and a pad of paper
Right.
and a pen. You can use an Excel spreadsheet or an app that you're familiar with.
Yeah. I think if you don't keep track of it, it's easy to go overboard too. You have to definitely keep track of what you're spending.
Absolutely. And I couldn't imagine, because it's an exciting time of the year. I couldn't imagine going in and just spending without keeping track and still
Definitely.
managing to stay within a limit.
Yeah, definitely. You're kind of just setting yourself up for debt if you're going to do it without tracking it. So, yeah.
Exactly.
Uh-huh. Yeah. So, do you think it's better to shop online or shop in person for the holidays?
So this one is very interesting, and I think it
Mhm.
comes down to, one, what's more convenient for you, and two, knowing yourself. So the convenience part could be, so for some people, online is more convenient. Some people
Right.
like to actually go out, see things, touch things, feel things, make an
Mhm.
informed purchase. But I have heard two different schools of thought as far as overspending. So some people, when they're online, they find clicking, there's not a whole lot of, it's difficult to resist that temptation, and they may overspend because it's so easy to click and add something to the cart.
Mhm.
Whereas others, when they're out, it's exciting, there's holiday music, they're a little more tempted to buy things in person. And so knowing yourself and knowing what's going to be the easiest way to stay within your limit would be a good way to make that decision.
Right. And even if you are planning on going to the store and shopping, maybe look online first to see what they have. So make sure they actually have what you want rather than just going there and they don't have what you want, but you end up buying things you don't need to.
Absolutely. And I'm glad you mentioned going online first,
Hmm.
because that's a good way to price compare, and
Yeah.
look at different stores to narrow down where you're going to get the best savings on the things you want to purchase.
Oh yeah, that's a great idea because some places have the same things, but one place is cheaper. So yeah, that'll definitely save you both time and money if you go online first.
Exactly.
Yeah. So, I know we talked a bunch about gift giving, but what are some other holiday expenses aside from gifts people should budget for?
So some other things they might want to include are travel, any charitable giving,
Mm.
clothing. Some people like to buy a new outfit for certain occasions. Also would be if you're hosting, so decorations, food, those types of expenses.
Right. Yeah, definitely. You want to think about them. And are there any things that you could give or, provide to bring somewhere or something like that that cost little or no money?
Yeah, so I had mentioned before some non-traditional gift items. And so if you're trying to, you want to show somebody that you're thinking about them in the holidays, but you may not have it in the budget to buy everybody a gift. Some things to consider are, tapping into your talents. So arts and
Okay.
crafts, baked goods. If you have a green thumb, plants can always, be a nice gift. Even acts of service for somebody could be a way of showing you care about them without actually having to buy a gift with your income.
Yeah, that's true. Especially if you are crafty or something, you could definitely make something yourself, and baking is always something that's cost effective as well. So those are some
Mhm.
great ideas. So, what are some holiday traditions you can do with your friends or family that are cost effective? Because I feel like the holidays is just a time of year in general where people want to be doing things with their family. What's something they could do that's not over the top with their budget?
So some of the fun traditions might be like going to a community parade. That's volunteering as a family at a local shelter, something like that. I know other families who have annually they'll participate in a particular a run or a walk, go on a particular hike, and it just becomes part of their family tradition. Also, rewatching holiday classics films is a fun tradition as well.
Yeah, I think another one that you could do is even just driving around your neighborhood, seeing Christmas lights or around your town or something. That's always fun to do and it's free.
And some cities even publish, if the homeowner signs up for it, different
Mhm.
addresses so you can plan a nice little course.
Oh yeah, see that's such a great idea and it's cost effective for the
Hmm.
family.
Definitely.
So, yeah. So, travel is usually a big part of the holidays, although this year it might be different. But I think in general, when should you start budgeting for holiday travel?
So ideally, you would include holiday travel in your overall
Hmm.
holiday limit at the beginning of the year. That being said, I would say if you can't do it from the beginning of the year, as soon as you know what your travel plans are, then start budgeting for those expenses.
Yeah. Especially if you know you go to the same place every year, you can definitely include that in your budget at the beginning of the year.
Exactly.
Yeah. So, since the holidays are an expensive time of year to travel, what are some tips to affordably travel during this time of the year?
So, first of all, just being flexible, comparing your different options, whether that's air travel, traveling by vehicle, train travel. That being said, once you've nailed down how you're going to get where you're going, you could consider cashing in on any loyalty points you have with hotels or airlines, or even if you have a credit card rewards program. The end of the year is sometimes a good time to use those, especially considering sometimes they might have expiration dates.
Hmm. Yeah, so you definitely want to use them before that. Yeah.
Mhm.
Do you have any other holiday budgeting tips for the listeners that we might not have touched on?
Yeah, so with the travel in mind, a couple
Hmm.
other tips are just considering shipping gifts ahead to avoid baggage
Oh,
fees.
okay. That's
Even
good.
when you purchase them, sometimes you can ship them to your destination if you know that's where you'll be spending the holidays. Um, and then when people are traveling, sometimes they'll have extra food costs, so packing snacks or meals to avoid that during the travel is recommended. Some overall general tips
Hmm.
you could consider if you have any supplies that can be reused from last year, such as decorations, cards, wrapping paper, and then looking for deals throughout the year. Um, and of course, we always talk about shopping early, so that's another.
Hmm.
If you start your planning early and you're shopping early, you can take advantage of sales as they come up. And then just going back to the gift giving, sometimes families will, in order to keep the cost low for everybody, they'll do a gift exchange instead of individual gifts, or they'll rotate who's going to host the holiday dinner so that the burden doesn't fall on the same family every year.
Yeah, that's a good point. Because if you are hosting, that's another added expense to the holidays.
Hmm.
Yeah.
And then just overall, something I always try to, share with my clients is that people may have this idea that they really want to show everybody, their friends and family, that they care about them, but you don't have to go into debt or overspend to be a good friend or family member. So just some things to avoid, if that's okay to share, would
Yeah,
be
absolutely.
avoid taking out any high risk loans, such as payday loans or title loans. Avoid taking out credit cards or adding high balances to your credit cards, because what this will do is it'll set you up to already be behind in paying off debts at the beginning of a new year. And you'd want to start off the beginning of a new year fresh, not with this holiday debt that you've kind of racked up.
Yeah, that is such a good point to bring up. I'm glad you brought that up about, spending on credit cards and being in debt, because you don't want to go into the new year with debt. So you definitely have to be careful with that. Don't rely on your credit cards for your holiday spending.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And
Well,
and still finding, using some of the tips that we've talked about today to
mhm.
still enjoy the holidays and still show people that you care about them, that you're thinking about them on the holidays, but setting yourself up for success, of course, in the next year.
Yeah, that's great. That's some great advice. Well, I think that you definitely provided the listeners with some great holiday budgeting tips today. So thank you for that.
Well, thank you for having me on. It's been a pleasure speaking with you.
Yeah. So enjoy your holidays this year.
You as well. Thank you.
There are a lot of aspects to the holidays that many people forget about, and it's crucial to list out everything you're going to need to spend money on. Alicia provided some awesome insight for our holiday budgeting guide. Know what kind of shopper you are before you make the decision to online or in-store shop. If you do decide to do your shopping in-store, do some research online first to see what stores offer the best value for what you're looking to buy. Without doing prior research, you might be more tempted to purchase things you don't need. Another great tip is to reuse items from previous years. So my family always saves gift bags from year to year so we can reuse them. This is a great way to cut down on your holiday spending. A great tip for next year is to start your budget at the beginning of the year. This way you'll have a whole year to slowly start saving for the holidays, and it won't feel like a sudden financial hit to your bank account. Also, don't rely on credit cards for your holiday spending. This will put you into debt, and you'll end up starting the year off trying to pay off debt rather than going into the new year with a clean financial state. As always, don't charge what you can't afford to pay off at the end of the month. A great way to save money is to DIY when you can and find cost-effective ways to start holiday family traditions. You can always switch off hosting duties from year to year between your family, so you're not always stuck with the hosting bill. Most importantly, don't forget a budget for holiday travel if you're planning on traveling during the holidays. Travel costs are almost always more expensive during the holidays. And with that being said, that wraps up another episode of Millennial Debt Domination. Don't forget to follow the podcast wherever you're listening. And if you're listening on Apple Podcast, rate and review us there. Thanks for listening, Millennials, Gen Zers, and everyone else. I'll be back next Wednesday for a special bonus episode of Millennial Debt Domination. I'll talk to y'all then.